Over here in the United Kingdom, we have a huge problem. It's called double standards. Absolutely, chums. And we've seen this time and time and time again, particularly with the leading broadcaster, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Cast your mind back a few months, and this particular individual, Wyn Evans, a very popular presenter on many different formats, well, he was let go from Strictly Come Dancing and the subsequent tour for inappropriate behaviour. When you study it a little bit further, 20 years ago, this would have been seen as comedy on the TV, particularly like BBC Two, you know, the sort of thing I mean. And I'm not saying what he said he'd right or whatever, but it just shows you how things have moved on. Or have they? Morning, nice to see you, chums. Thank you so much for joining me today, and as ever, welcome one and all brand new subscribers. You know, the big show over here at the moment, which is, oh sorry, we haven't had a wave, have we? The big show over here at the moment in trouble is MasterChef. And I mentioned the other week that, you know, for me, I don't mind cookery shows, you know, they're kind of all right to watch and everything, but there's so many of them, aren't they? And that's the problem, you know, but they're very, very easy to make and very sellable, because most of the time you've got guests that are the public and one or two people like, you know, celebrity chefs, all that sort of stuff. But who can afford to dine in a celebrity restaurant? You know what I'm saying? And that's where it gets interesting. This particular man, John Turode, is joining Greg Wallace as being axed from the very successful TV show MasterChef and Celebrity MasterChef. And apparently this is all down to the fact that John uttered a few lyrics from a Kanye West song a few years ago, and now suddenly somebody's remembered they're offended. Right? This is how the BBC works. But this man, Tim Davie, the boss of BBC, the Director General, still hasn't done anything about, you know, the guy that was shouting obscenities regarding Jewish people at Glastonbury. No, he's still in the job, still got all the perks. And likewise, the problem with Kneecap, you know, nothing further there. You see how it's double standards. And then, of course, you get the plethora of all the daytime TV women who are basically telling, you know, like Lorraine Kelly, oh, it's dreadful, you know, Greg Wallace, dreadful. But if you cast your mind back and look at certain things, when you look at daytime TV, it's truly double standards. You see, there's Lorraine Kelly threatening to lift up the kilt of a fellow presenter, Ben Shepherd, on her show. But that's just fun. Oh no, that's not offensive, that's just her having a laugh. The same, of course, with Loose Women. When they had the Dream Boys on, they're pouring over them like, you know, women of a certain age can't quite believe that they're near this very young flesh. And I'm not being cruel. I'm just saying this is double standards. Turn this right back and imagine if that was a string of girls coming in bikinis and if the men were suddenly standing up and pouring those men. You get the picture. Look at the way, for instance, they used the fake Italian chef, as it were, Gino Di Campo, and they had him posing in nothing, literally showing everything. But that's just comedy. It's always at the other side of the coin. Now, of course, as I said, all of these presenters come out, they decide to attack John Turode and, of course, Greg Wallace. And yes, they have a certain aspect to apologise for, and they have. But really, isn't it about time that double standards went both ways? You know, you don't get Lorraine Kelly apologising for the fact that she's flirting outrageously with guests and giggling away like some schoolgirl on hyena. And of course, you know, the girls of Loose Women saying, oh, he's gorgeous, he's fit. If they used language like that, literally a man about a female presenter or anybody regarding that particular story, they would be up in arms. And this is the problem with the BBC. So what's the real story? Well, it's anyway, the real story is they want to make it more inclusive, and they're looking at this particular woman to become their new presenter, a very respected presenter and chef. However, she comes with her own baggage because alongside her daughter and of course her friend, the former pop star Lily Allen, well, they were giggling about this very controversial subject. But apparently that seemingly is fine with the BBC. You see what I mean? Double standards throughout. I'd love to know what you think to this particular story genuinely in the comments below. Should it be one rule for all, or is it simply acceptable to have one rule for the females and one rule for the men? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.